And people, welcome to the People's Basics. We have another episode for you all today on Monday, April 19th. Today we are going to be covering the differences between universalism and means testing and why universalism is so much superior to means testing of economic benefits. I want to remind everyone to leave us any questions if you have any thoughts along the way. We want to answer them if you do join us live. But for those who are watching, please also leave us comments and we'll respond to them on YouTube as well. Also, help us boost the channel if you agree that universalism is greater than means testing by liking today's video and sharing it with your friends so that they know more reasons why means testing is so much worse than universalism. That being said, let's start to talk about what these terms actually mean. So, universalism should be pretty self-evident. It's the idea that everyone gets the benefit. So we should now kind of explain, what does means testing mean? It means that we are saying some people don't get the benefit. We are arbitrarily deciding that there is a line in which certain people receive the benefit and certain people don't. Also, it's not exactly a pure cutoff. Some programs also structure their program where you may still receive some benefit, but based off your income level, your amount of benefit received will be less. And so you might be asking yourself, hey, doesn't that seem, more progressive? We don't want to give wealthy people, a benefit. Well, we are here to break down the 15 reasons why that is a really bunk claim. And we have included in our description section an article that we have at our website that breaks this down into more detail with more resources for you all to go check out. But with that being said, here are the top 15 reasons why universalism is greater than means testing. The first one is that universalism is more economically efficient in terms of its administrative costs. When we look at existing programs that are already taking place in America today, we have a couple cases of very popular universal programs. It doesn't go to necessarily everyone, but it goes to everyone regardless of their income level. It just is restricted based off of age. And so I'm referencing Medicare and Social Security. And now these programs have very low administrative costs, ranging from 1.1% for Medicare to 0.6% for Social Security. Now, if you compare that to the existing means-tested administered programs like Medicaid, SNAP, housing vouchers, SSI, which is also part of Social Security but is means-tested, school meals, earned income tax credits, all of these programs largely range from 1 to 10% and usually averaging out around at 5% range, a little under, like at that 4.8%. But when we compare these, it's clear why there would be a greater administrative level to a means-tested program. You have to actually administer paperwork to see, are you eligible for this, benefit? And so that means you need someone to actually process the paperwork to see if someone is, deserving of having the benefit distributed to them, compared to a universal program, which is simply, okay, you want it, you got it. You are now in the system. And that creates a higher cost because you now need to employ more people to review paperwork. The second thing, and this is kind of related as well to that administration, is it can cause more errors. When we look at existing administrative error rates, they've actually been increasing more, sadly, because of rising poverty levels from this past year's economic crisis. And we've reached a point where it's achieving over 7% error rate. Think about that for a moment. You have these people who are in desperate need of benefits that are simply not able to get them because there's an error in the system, which is going to cause them more delays and them not being able to get what they need to be able to potentially subsist, to be able to stay in their home. Who knows what their need is? But they are not going to get it when they were eligible to get it because of human error, because we arbitrarily decided that some people should not receive a benefit. The third thing that I want to cite of why means testing is worse than universalism is that, it's politically divisive. You have to ask yourself, where are we going to draw the line? Are we going to say that it's 75,000? Is it 80,000? And is this going to divide us? Is someone who just made over it going to be willing to support the program knowing that they're not going to be able to get it? And likewise, it forms this kind of narrative of like haves and have nots, of people saying, oh, I don't want to support this program because you're just taking from me and giving it to someone else because they don't feel like they're getting the benefit too. And so, yeah, we need to be having these unifying programs where everyone is included in it. The next is that means testing creates a work disincentive. As you can imagine, if you only receive a benefit when you are making less money, you are going to be less inclined to take on higher paying positions or work more hours to be able to earn more, because you will sometimes be, net losing money from increasing your income stream. And so this creates a very bad incentive. Now, we obviously here on many occasions denounce the notion of workism and people needing to work to survive. But there also should not be disincentives to work. People should want to be able to work for their own prosperity and to be able to help their communities, and they should never be penalized for doing that. If we really want to be a working class movement, let's stop punishing people who want to work. That's a very evident thing for anyone who claims to be a supporter of the working class. The next thing is that, means testing, as I mentioned before, creates benefit delays. Usually, it can take a lot of processing, even if they are doing it right. Delays can be as long as a whole month. And these people aren't people who are living a month at a time. These are often people who are living like a week at a time on their economic funds. And so these benefit delays are going to cause a lot of problems. We have seen these statistics cited by candidates so many times that 70% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency expense. Think about what that means. The disruption period of a whole month is going to be devastating to so many people. And this has been clearly evident in this year where so many people had to actually try and access these programs and saw these big delays, especially in unemployment insurance. So we need universal programs that are helping people to not need to, be delayed in receiving the help they need to just be able to subsist, stay in their home, be able to have food, etc. So beyond that, there's another thing, which is information risk. As I said, there's delays in being able to get it once you've started to apply. But, for a lot of people who have never fallen on hard times before, a lot of middle-class people who have been working a job for a while, who suddenly lose it, they don't know how to access the system well. Like, do you all know all the benefits that you could get? Do you know how to get them? Well, that's why we have a whole freaking profession to get people enrolled on these programs. This is so much of the work that social workers do, is they help people who are in need try to get connected with all of these different programs. Now, mind you, there's still going to be some support that is needed, but it is not to the same degree of demand. They could be targeting people who are homeless and might not have access to broadband to be connected to all these different services, but they're not as needed for the vast majority of Americans, because they would simply be in a universal program and having it even while they were working. So we do not need this additional information risk involved. So the next thing that I want to give is that, as we said at the beginning, some people cite, why do we want to give billionaires benefits? Isn't it more progressive to simply give the money to just the poor people? No, it's called you adjust the net distribution through taxation. Let's think about this in two simple ways. One, who is consuming more stuff or making more income to be able to pay potentially more taxes? It's wealthier people. And so we're going to, don't have to necessarily fund the measure, but, to offset inflation, there will be some taxation policy to try and adjust our monetary supply. And so in turn, the people who might be receiving, let's say it was a universal basic income of $1,000 a month, yeah, they might receive $1,000, but they're also now getting a new taxation, which could be for like the very wealthy in the near millions. So are they, what's the harm there? They're net losing money still, and we're only doing this because we're trying to help the lives of the poor to be less inconvenienced in total, and to reduce the administrative costs. The second way I think about this is Think about just like, let's say we didn't even do it with taxation. Let's say we gave everyone $1,000. Let's say we have one person who has $1, one person who has $1,000 already, and we have another person who has 1,000,000. That way we have like scales of 1,000. Give each one of these person. Let's first establish the ratio. So there's a clear 1,000 to 1,000 ratio for each step up. But now let's say we give each person $1,000. Well, now each person has 1,001, 2,000, and 1,000,000, 1,000. Now the ratio has become 2 to 1 between person A and person B. And for the other one, it's become only 500 to 1. So it's very clear that even without taxation, simply doing a universal benefit would in turn benefit the poor more and reduce economic inequality. So yeah, I think the notion that means testing suddenly makes things more progressive is outlandish to me. Next, means testing creates poor quality programs. So it's pretty evident that when, not everyone's in it, things are going to be not treated as well. If everyone's getting the benefit, we want it to work efficiently because we're all stakeholders in it. But if we're not a stakeholder in it, well, we don't want to necessarily fund it more to make sure it's a quality program because we're not getting it. And this is actually reflected when people are polled on the quality of these programs. I'm going to use the same reference of universal programs and means tested programs that we were talking about before when it came to administration rates. According to polls, only 5% of Democrats and 15% of Republicans want to do a cutback on Medicare, and only 3% of Democrats and 10% of Republicans want to do a cutback on Social Security. Those are pretty low. A lot of people like these programs a lot. But now let's compare these to the means-tested programs or even statements that are kind of similar to means-tested programs. When it comes to, being able to provide government assistance to the unemployed, 10% of Democrats and 44% of Republicans want to cut that. That's significantly higher. That's double basically what the Medicare was for the Democrats and almost nearly 3 times that for the Republicans. And then even when you get phrases like assistance to the needy, these things still do even worse. Like they have 6% of Democrats who want to cut back on assistance to the needy, as well as 44% of Republicans. Now, mind you, relatively, the Democrats are still largely on board with just helping the needy, but it's still a little bit less popular than these kind of specific programs that are universal. And when it comes to Republicans, oh boy, their opposition becomes way stronger once we start means testing these programs. So again, this kind of goes back to the politically divisive point that I made before, but it's also in the sense that people just don't value these ideas as much. They don't see as much quality in them. So yeah, that's my 8th point was that they don't help the quality of programs. They make them, in fact, worse. The next is that means testing creates a stigma in receiving benefits. A lot of people sometimes refuse to even apply for the benefits because they don't want to accept essentially that they've failed and that they have to accept government assistance. And there's also the stigma in sometimes using the benefits. I think about like WIC and SNAP and having to ask stores, do you accept this? And sometimes being told no, and then having to return groceries. Do you know how dehumanizing that is for people? Now, cash and universal benefits would completely eliminate that. Everyone would be wanting to accept that if everyone was receiving that. Of course. And there wouldn't be stigma in trying to use it because everyone has it. And there wouldn't be stigma in saying, hey, I want to accept it because you don't have to choose to accept it. Everyone's getting it. So I think this is hugely straining on people's mental health for the damage that it can do to their self-worth in feeling like they have to take on these benefits and admit that they aren't capable of necessarily supporting themselves and that they're receiving government assistance instead. They shouldn't have to feel that guilt. They shouldn't have to feel that at all. No one should have to feel that. But it feels entirely classist that we force this kind of real burden of, self-worth on these people who are just struggling to get by, not entirely ever from themselves. Some people, sure, but a lot of people, it's just the system has really taken a toll on them. And it breaks my heart, truly. Like I've gotten to work with a lot of like people in the homeless shelter, and they feel terrible that they are simply having to kind of be in this way. They want to be able to self-support themselves, or know that this is just a safety net. They don't have to go through all these hassles, do the paperwork and all that. It's crazy what they have to go through. Let's go to our 10th point. Our 10th point is that means testing, if done to existing programs, can be real trust breakers because they're breaking a promise to voters. Because a lot of the times, if you're proposing a universal program, you might feel like, oh, yeah, this sounds good. I'm going to support this thing because that would help me. But then if you're excluded from that, if you knew that ahead of time, maybe you wouldn't have supported it. And so this is breaking a promise where you felt like you were going to receive a benefit and then you didn't. And I think about this a lot when you increase means testing, like we recently had with the whole stimulus bill in negotiating where exactly is that cutoff. You had a lot of people who might have been supporting it who then got cut out because they lowered the threshold. So I think we want to restore trust in government by saying, hey, we're not going to break your promises and you're not going to receive it. Everyone is going to receive it. The next reason, my 11th point, is that means testing actually hurts urban America. Because if you think about it, a means test is based off of income level. And when you think about how income is distributed across this country, usually urban America makes a higher income on average. However, they are usually offset by also having higher costs. And so means testing doesn't reflect these costs. Now, mind you, some might do a COLA on certain parts of these programs, but the COLA can also be another aspect that is going to be attacked politically. So when it comes to administering the program, if you're simply basing it off of income, you are going to exclude more people from urban America who actually could use that benefit because of their higher costs. And it's only going to be distributed to the other parts of the country that are lower cost. And so I think that is going to do a serious detriment because, well, urban America is still going to bear the costs of any funding measures that are used for those programs. So in turn, this is going to hurt urban America because they're going to receive less of the benefit and they're going to have to still bear that cost. Okay, next. Means testing, it makes programs have to, handle income fluctuation. So this is basically more of a tax side. Like, I don't know about all of you, but a lot of people had to file taxes early this year if they just wanted to be eligible for a benefit, because when it came to evaluation of what is your current, financial status, well, they recognize your previous tax return. And so I'll take my own example here. I was gainfully employed in 2019. I lost my job in 2020. And they reflected that I was gainfully employed and received basically none of the stimulus checks until I filed my new taxes. And this is all despite, as I said, I didn't have a job. My income as of 2020 was zero for the second half of the year. And so should I not have received a benefit? I had no income. I think I kind of needed a stimulus check. It would have potentially helped me stay in my apartment instead of having to move back home. I didn't like doing that, and I'm hopefully going to be able to move back out soon. I have plans to do that this summer, but yeah, excluding people like me because they don't know how to count income properly is going to cause us to have to make major decisions. And so a universal program would not have put me in that situation and would not have put millions of Americans in that situation who lost their jobs in 2020 and in other years. The next one is that you have to think about the time demand. We talked about before the administrators that we have to put in play to actually do the evaluation of the paperwork, but someone's got to fill it out. Someone's got to gather the documentation together. And when you think about who are the people who need this assistance, most often it's the poor, it's the elderly, it's the disabled. And so all these people are already spending a lot of time just trying to support themselves. It's already pretty difficult being in those situations. And now we're asking them, okay, put in more time to get your benefits. And also, like, it's not like it's like permanent once you're on. You have to like reapply and make sure that you are continuing on the program when you hit those specific application deadlines. So, yeah, we're asking a lot of extra time from these poor people rather than just streamlining the process and making it universal. The next reason I want to give, number 14, is that means testing hurts victims who receive justice. Settlement payments given to someone are often counted as income. And so this means that, you are just trying to get rectified for, damages done to you and be made whole. It's not like you're supposed to net gain necessarily. You're supposed to be made whole in the justice process. And so what does this mean? If this is now counted as income, they're preventing you from being made whole because they're taking your benefits away because you received justice. That is abominable that we would do this to people, that we would take away their benefits because they've been victimized and that the justice system worked. It's outrageous. And then finally, the 15th reason that universalism is better than means testing is that means testing incentivizes people to commit fraud. And this can be to either receive more benefits or to stay on their benefits. This could be in making sure that they are, they're reporting a lower income than they actually have. This could be reporting fake injuries to be eligible. This could be having to fake job searches to make sure that they're still looking for new work. All of these things are really incentivizing, not immorality. I get why people might need to do that, feeling they want more, but it is to some degree bad for society where we're incentivizing people to lie to each other just to try and be able to get a little bit ahead. We shouldn't have programs that make fraud like beneficial. And so those are my 15 reasons why I think universalism is much better than means testing. Let me just go through it again as a summary to remind you all. So means testing creates higher administrative costs. Means testing causes more administrative errors. Means testing makes programs more politically divisive. Means testing creates a work disincentive. Means testing creates benefit delays and disruptions. Means testing creates an information risk for benefit delivery. Means testing is not more progressive in its net distribution. Means testing creates poorer quality programs. Means testing creates stigma in receiving benefits. Means testing creates broken promises to voters. Means testing hurts urban America. Means testing makes benefit programs handle income fluctuation worse. Means testing requires extra time demand on the impoverished and marginalized. Means testing hurts victims who receive justice. And means testing incentivizes people to commit fraud to receive more benefits. So that being said, everyone, I'm happy that we got to go through this overview of why universalism is significantly better than means testing. That being said, please let us know if you think we missed any reasons why universalism is better than means testing. Please let us know if you disagree and you have a counterpoint of why you think means testing is better. And also, let us know future subjects that you would like us to cover in the future, because we are constantly looking for new subjects to be able to cover when we're not having our Commoners Corner segments. And as well, come sign up for a Commoners Corner segment. We are always looking to talk to members of the community about what they think the basic role of government should be. And so we want to remind everyone, here is the lesson from today. Means testing is mean. So with that being said, my friends, I hope you all have a great day out there. And as always, I hope you all